One, I was waiting so long to make it because it's just extraordinary. Now, obviously not expecting me to say that this bike is better than this bike. This is 30 years old motorcycle, 750. Probably has half the horsepower than the new 700. The CP2 engine, the famous CP2 engine, they're great, all the stuff. There is 30 years of difference in technology. There's 30 years difference in development. There's 30 years difference in materials and the way we make them. 30 years of experience building a motorcycle. So the difference should be astronomical, huge. In 30 years, we've done so much. When this bike was built, we used to use different phones. Hello, could you connect me to this and this and that? Yes, 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 at the receiver's costs. Yes, thank you. Yeah, I remember that because, we live in that era. And this motorcycle was on my wall. Not this exactly one, but very similar. It was a Peter Hansel going sideways, going back from the dune in Africa. And that was my dream motorcycle. Yes, those guys, they used to do it. This motorcycle, I have to be honest, when we went to shopping for motorcycles, we bought a Super Tenere 200 to travel. I did not like the Tenere 700. It looked to me like it broke a banana, with this fuel tank for this whole and all that stuff. And because I love this motorcycle and I was a huge fan, and I knew that because I used to work with motorcycles since I was a kid. And I had a workshop in Italy. The workshop still exists with my ex-business partner. So I had a big experience with them. I know them. When I saw this coming out, I was like, are you kidding me? It's like nothing to do with the old Super Tenere. This was like, no, I'm very, very disappointed. And obviously then Portare's videos starting to come out, and they played a big role on all of us. You either getting yourself a Tenere 700 or KTMs or all the stuff. Portares did an amazing job for the ADV community because he's shown how much this bike can do, where the limit is on these bikes. But also, he did something very bad to the community of ADV, because now you have a lot of bunch of people, like myself, I have to admit, at some degree, that bought the Tenere 700 or one of those big, medium class, medium size, medium weight size ADV bikes, and returning into the shop saying the bike is broken because it doesn't do what Portares does. It's true. You buying this bike because you saw that guy doing that stuff, and you think, all right, let's take, step back. He's a talented guy. He probably wants a couple of races. He's good. So I'm not gonna be able to do the same stuff he does. However, let's say I'm gonna do half the stuff he does, or 20% of the stuff he does. It still suits me. Well, guess what? And then we bought these bikes, and then we're not able to do 1% of the stuff the guy does. I may exaggerate with the 1%, but you get the idea. You drop the bike and you have your tongue outside just to pick it up. It's like, shit, I was expecting something different. So, you take the bike through the trials, and again, I'm not talking about people who have experience in off-road. I'm talking people like me who had no experience off-road racing or riding whatsoever at all. I'm coming from the road bikes, so I'm a perfect example of that. So people like us, they was like, oh shit, this is completely different. What have I done? So again, Portares did an amazing job for the Yamaha and ADV community, to the other side, to the shops, to the, these guys, to sell the bikes. He did an amazing job to get us out of the coach, out of the sofa, and saying, hey, get yourself one, have some fun, look what they can do. Do you want a slice of that cake? Have it. He did a great job. But on the other hand, it was a huge disappointment for a lot of people. Now, jokes goes, like you put a sticker, you know, Portares. It's not a joke. That really has to be remembered to people, to myself as well. I've pushed it more than this. I started to race, I started to do this stuff, I started to appreciate the bike and modify it, so yeah, it's there. I went off topic, I'm sorry. Portares, ADV bikes and all this stuff. Well, this is the mother, or one of the mothers of the ADV stuff. Peter himself was once stuff like Portares does. He's shown us what these bikes can do. He's shown us that, you know, these bikes can cross the desert of Africa, the Mauritania. It can go from Europe to Africa. It can travel around the world. It can do it comfortably. It has the fuel capacity. It has the potential inside the engine. It has enough power, enough reliability. So everyone wanted, excuse me for a second. So everyone wanted a slice of that, right? And I don't blame me. I wanted a slice of that. Back in the day, I couldn't afford it because I was just a kid. It didn't stop me, but there you go. So again, you're not expecting me to say that is a better motorcycle, and I'm not gonna say it, but I'm gonna kind of prove it to you. Stay tuned. Let me put the coffee on the table. Let me get a measure tape. Let's do some very dodgy basic science, right? So, first of all, when you design a motorcycle, you follow some kind of geometry stuff. So, I said in a previous video that the front end on that motorcycle comes from this motorcycle. Okay, so you're an engineer, and you can put anything on the front of that bike. Yes, what I wanted to do, I wanted to put 48mm forks from the YZ450, modify the internals, and have something similar to this. Not race orientated, but off-road capable, to increase the performance of the bike, have a bigger brakes, just to improve. Instead of restoring the old suspensions, let's put on the modern suspension and give the bike a bit of you know, modern air, a bit more young blood, to say it so way. So when I put that forks down, and I had my fronts from this motorcycle, it looked oddly similar. The headstock, so the measurement of the frame. So the frame, the headstock is the part of the frame that holds the whole front end from two bearings. So where that is positioned, the angle, how far from the attachment of the swing arm or the road motorcycle, the size of it, and the size for the bearings, it takes a lot of stuff. It's like, I can't believe this. It's like, I need my, you know, values and start measuring stuff. Once I measured, it's like, I still couldn't believe it. So what I did, I put that front end on, put the bearings on, without a single modification. I tied everything up. I moved the bars from left to the stock, to the right to the stock. And to my amusement, there was one thing that didn't fit. The key bowl. That unfortunately has a slightly different fitment. It is there, it is fitted with one bolt instead of two, because they are slightly misaligned. Now is the only modification that's supposed to be done, and I haven't done it because I'm lazy. Everything went on without any single mod to it. That frame headstock, that measurement is 30 years old. And it's here. Is it a bad thing? No. If that stuff works, let's keep using it. I love the ideology. I'm not criticizing. I'm 100% honest. If it works, leave it. Strong enough, leave it. Reproduce it here. But I'm amused. Really? Okay, great. So, I said, how about the basics of the geometry? Let's check it out. Let's say that again, it's not going to be up to single millimeter measurement because, you know, depending on how you set the bars, you know, I've tried to get this as straight as possible. The bike is not completely straight, they lean over a little bit, very similar. trying to get everything as similar as possible to get it as precise measurement as possible. We're only getting roughly. We don't have to be precise to every single degree or every single millimeter, because the chances are, it's gonna take much more work than what we're doing now. So, let's say from the swing arm point of attachment on the frame to the front axe. Again, roughly, because, okay, let me tell you the difference. No. Again, just because I may be wrong, about 105 millimeters. Just over 1 meter. This one and this one. Pretty much the same. The steering rack angle, so the headstock angle, 27 degree, 26 and a half, can't remember which one, half a degree difference. Now the half a degree difference, you play with that, because if you lower the front forks, so you slide the front forks up, you lower the bike in the front, you gain on the angle, or you lose on the angle, depending on how you say it. You get it closer, so from 26 and a half, you go to 26, for example. Same on that. So again, they have to be roughly there, and then you play with your suspension settings. When you put your gears on the back of the passenger, that is going to increase because your rear of the bike is going to go down, and your forks going to open. You increase the angle, and so the handling. But they are nearly identical. So even that is very strange. Now the only difference comes from the length of the swing arm. So let's get it from where the rear wheel axle should be to the frame attachment. 57 on a 7.1. So we're fine. 57 against 63. Against 63, roughly. So that swing arm is longer. Is it a good thing? Yes and no. Let me get back to that in a second. Now, once we measure that, we can't ignore the fact the point of attachment of the swing arm, the height from the ground. Again, they're not straight, so this measurement is not correct to the bike when they design it. We're just doing the comparison. The bikes lean roughly the same, so the measurement is going to be off, but off for both of them in the same way, and we're only looking for the differences. So, the height of the attachment of the swing arm on the frame on a T7, 54 centimeters. 58 centimeters. 58. So this is much lower. It means that this swing arm is no longer going to be at the angle that the T7 is. T7 has a huge angle on the swing arm, and everyone knows this. And Yamaha say we increase the angle, we design it this way, so it has more traction. Now I call it bullshit. I call that as an excuse, and let me explain why. Now, the more increase the angle of this, then the longer the swing arm we have to make the suspension work decently. Okay? Because when it's parallel, let's say you ride in position and your swing arm is this. When this moves up and down, you can see this doesn't move forward or back. You see? I'm very slowly. From here to here, it moved forward probably 1 mil. But if my swing arm is at this angle, when we compress the suspension, the wheel goes up, right? It also moves back. When extends the suspension, it goes down, it moves forward. So the forth and back movement of the back wheel is increased when you increase the angle of the swing arm. Now, this is one downside. The positive side, yes, it pushes a bit more up, kind of on the weight or the center of the weight, if the weight is up, it may give you a bit more traction. With T7s, yes, they do have pretty good traction up the hills. Better than, for example, KTMs. They don't have this much angle on the swing arm. I'm not sure. You should have the comparison done with two bikes and some rider and some telemetry, or at least some good feeling and some timing. I'm not sure. They do climb fairly well. But why I call it bullshit? That they've done it because they wanted to give more traction. I call it bullshit because it is. Now, let me start to explain on that first, so you understand exactly what I'm talking about. That engine has a crank here. Not a real measurement, just a difference. At about 44, 45 centimeters. Let me put the camera a bit more there, so you can see. Actually, let me check if you see what I'm showing you. I'll leave the camera like this. 54, I'd say, yes. 59. 46. That much of a difference, okay? The swing arm. Now, how you design the bike, why the swing arm is on this motorcycle is mounted on this position, not much higher or not much lower, is dictated. I need to grab almost the camera. Let me see if I can grab the camera quickly. I'll show you. I need to show you this. It's dictated by this. If this was much lower here, you couldn't put a swing arm attachment here because you have a chain that has to go from the sprocket on top of the swing arm and to the back sprocket. And this has to be roughly in line. Though the chain touches the sliders, but it slides on the top. It can't, if this was here, the chain would have to go up and there. It's not possible. So this, the point of attachment of the swing arm on the frame, is dictated by your sprocket, and the sprocket position is dictated on where your gearbox is and the way you design the gearbox. Now, this engine is not designed for off-road use, period. Right? This engine was adopted from all the motorcycles. It's a great design, it's a great engine, CP2 engine is great. However, it's a very tall engine. The design of it is very tall. You have the sump, which sticks out miles down, is nearly almost down there. You know, see where the crank is. On this, see where the crank is? And the sump is nowhere, is literally that much below the crank. And also, you see how they rotate the engine. So, the heads, the cylinders and the heads, they rotate it forward. The whole clutch, the whole gearbox is on the top. You see, at the angle, this is the crank. This is the gearbox on the top of it. Behind it on the top. It's roughly at the same height as your cylinders. And the cylinder head is not higher than the gearbox. So this is very compact, very, very low. Now, check out again the CP2 engine. This is the crank. Behind the crank, you have the gearbox and the clutch, which I love the design because it's very compact, it's very short. You see? Very short. But the cylinder head, the cylinder already is the tallest point, is above the gearbox. The cylinder head, everything is above the gearbox. It's here, it's very tall. From here to the sump, we have enormous space. If this was designed the way that one was, it would be completely different. And this is why I'm saying that they designed the swing arm
to be at this angle because they wanted to achieve more grip, more traction is bullshit. You had to, because this engine was adopted in this frame. It wasn't designed this way. Now, that engine is obviously, it has very shallow sump because it's a dry sump. This is not. Everything here floats in oil. Okay? It's wet sump. This one, your oil stays in that. Behind there is a tank with oil. Now in the Dakar bikes, what they do, I will have to remove the fuel tank, but they modify the frame, and the top of the frame they made it slightly bigger, and they made it sealed so they could use it as a tank for the oil. So they removed that and put it there, so it was a great solution. And again, this type of engine gives you that much of a solution, that much of an option. Why haven't they done that on this? I'll tell you why. Because obviously of the costs. CP2 engine is a great engine. Why don't use it there? They probably spoke with engineers. I don't know why we went, because we shouldn't know who I am to know how they've done it. But I'm assuming they say, okay, we have this engine. I want to put this engine because it's extremely reliable. It's not very powerful for the capacity it has, but it's very reliable. It doesn't have high compression. It has very roughly low compression on the cylinders, so it can chew all the bad fuels when you go around the world, when you travel, when you do rallies, and that's all good. That's great. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. And the character of the engine is incredible. The 270 crank, you know, you almost have a sensation that you're riding a V-twin, not a parallel twin, you know, because that's the characteristics of the engine. They're amazing, you know. This is probably the strength of this motorcycle, the character of the engine, but the structure of the engine dictates the characteristics of the motorcycle. And the motorcycle is top heavy, not because of the fuel tank, but because of the engine sitting high. The fuel tank sitting on the top is also a bad thing, but they had to put it somewhere. Well, I did find a way to put it lower. I'm not the Yamaha engineer. I don't get paid 200-300 grand per year, but it's possible. So, just saying. However, the swing arm attachment on the frame is dictated by the type of the engine you used. And because the engine was not designed for this type of motorcycle, but was adopted from the road motorcycles, saying that this is designed in purpose, I call it bullshit, because it is. Simple as plain. Simple as plain. Now, there is one thing that I will like different on a T7. The length of the swing arm. Because then we can shorten the bike. The bike is very long. If you see in comparison the KTM 790 or 990, because that is the only class that the bikes you can do the comparison to, they have shorter wheelbase, quite a lot shorter wheelbase. In addition, what they have more power. I'm not asking from this engine to have more power. It's so gentle, it's so nice, it's so robust, it's fine. Honestly, it's like, maybe 2-3 times I wish I had more power, but no, maybe for a few seconds. Then it was like, no, not really. So, let me put you back here. But what I wanted is a bit shorter wheelbase. The reason I'm saying this, maybe this is mine, maybe this is me and my lack of skills, because again, when you see Portares, he will have no issues with that. However, even he, or people like him, could appreciate slightly shorter wheelbase. Now, for straights or speed, maybe it's good that it's so long, but KTM is about that much shorter. Okay, this is not scientific that much. I think they're about 60-70 mil, well 7 centimeters shorter. There you go. 7 centimeters, exactly. It is scientific. High precision. It makes the bike be more nimble, be more maneuverable. It makes the bike wants to go wheelies
lift the front end easier. And this is where I struggle. This is my downside. Later I was testing the bike, I was doing the British Championship, the second round, and there were whoops, technical whoops. When you can, on a dirt bike, you can just fly, you lift the front and pretty much use the back wheel and just float on the top. No. Lack of skills, probably. I spoke with someone else, like, no, you can't do it. You can't do it. If you pull tires, maybe. But even if you pull tires and the bike a little bit shorter and is more willing to go up, combination of a little bit more power, maybe, I don't think so. Combination of be more agile because it's a bit shorter, so it goes up easier, probably yes. So this is one thing I would like to change on 87. Now you notice my swing arm is actually machined to make the wheelbase even longer. Why is that? Again, because of this, of the very long angle on the swing arm. To compensate for the downside of the angle of the swing arm going, when it goes up and down, goes forth and back, right? If you compensate that to make it longer, if it's longer, you decrease the, see, this is same stuff. If it's longer, the angle is less. And this effect going with the back wheel going forth and back when the wheel travels is less. So I think that the long swing arm and the long wheelbase of the T7, it's not, but could be, a compensation for a tiny fuck up. Because all this engine required to be done, if that was, again, if that was me, is bullshit, because again, who I am to say it. However, it's very short, and I love it. And I love this thing, it's very short. And I can take it, it's very compact, the cylinders are very here, the head is finishing here. So this part is great, I love it, you can squeeze a lot of stuff, but Jesus Christ, just put it down. Why is here? It should be here. If you remove the sump and you put a dry sump on it, lubrication, you modify the chassis, well, you can design the chassis different. The swing arm is not here, it's here. So it's pretty much more parallel, less angle. It could be shorter. You can balance the bike much better. It can be much more nimble and still be very stable. So yeah, I call that bullshit. How this compares to that one, because we're doing the comparison, I'm trying to prove you that that motorcycle was designed better. I'm not saying that it's a better motorcycle, it was designed better. Because that has a dry sump. That engine is exactly what I said I would love from this engine. Stuff is bigger. We have all the technology. But look at the thing. It's absolutely or almost perfect. The swing arm is here. It's actually closer to the engine than that. Its engine finishes here, the swing arm is forward. You know, because the sprocket going out the gearbox, it is in the right position. The cylinder head, the crank of the engine is almost under the gearbox. Everything is very compact but tilted forward, lower down. Even maneuvering this bike, it feels easier to push it around when you maneuver it just by pushing it than a T7, believe me or not. Big steel fuel tank, no lightweight like this. Old frame, not the new generation like this. When you ride this motorcycle, now I'm not gonna shit you, I'm not gonna tell you any bullshit. When you ride one of these, but bear in mind, they have to be with fresh brakes, you know, because it's old stuff. You can't compare the old stuff that doesn't work, the clutch cable that you can't pull, the throttle that is, you know, is half broken, suspension that doesn't work, to the new stuff. Because that is fresh, that is old. So you refresh this stuff, you make sure the suspension works on this, you make sure you have a good tires, decent brakes, the throttle works, the clutch works, and then you compare the two bikes. This compared to that one, not this one's a competition, but to the standard one, this one handles better. I said it, I have both bikes, I have that as a standard and I have this, and I absolutely adore this motorcycle. We travel my missus, I'll ride it, it does wheelies in first, it does wheelies in second, maybe in third if you change from second to third. I absolutely love it. Full control, very stable, nimble, much more nimble than this motorcycle. And I'll tell you something else. If I'm probably gonna do it sooner or later because it bothers me so much. The modifications I've done on that motorcycle, making the fuel tank under the seat and put the seat from a dirt bike and make it slimmer on the front here. So here, all that job done on this bike, the result could potentially be better. Do you know why? Because the way the frame is designed. Because the way the engine is there. There's nothing here. I can put dirt bike, plastic seat and everything, and it will fit on this frame. I can remove the fuel, the oil tank there. I can put it in a frame like they did on the Dakar bikes for Peter Hansel. Yes, they had a one prototype frame. They only made 45 examples, something like this, but it was short-lived and all the stuff. It's different, but the geometry is the same. The stuff is exactly the same. This motorcycle, if you want to build something out there, it probably has more potential than this. I'm not shitting you. Now, probably because I have to, again, I'm an engineer, I have to prove my stuff. So, until proven, it's just bullshit talking. But I'm gonna do it. I get another frame, I got another one of these, I wanna do it. Even my missus says, you know what, you should do it, because she was on this bike, she felt how good this bike is. She was like, what the hell? I had a friend of mine, he's got a new Africa 2000. He jumped from that on this, he was like, this is much better. This is a much better motorcycle. We're not talking quality of the materials. Although, I have to say, tenere 700, this is not even 2 years old motorcycle, and the frame is starting to rust in places. 30 years old, no rust on the frame. Now you explain to me how that happened. You want to say that 30 years ago we had better technology? No. We put more effort into building motorcycles than we do now, and that what bothers me, because if you put the same effort that you put into this, into engineering, into development, that you put in this, if you put the same amount of engineering and effort on this that you put in this into this, this will be a much better motorcycle. It's a great motorcycle, it's a very good motorcycle, but we're just doing the comparison. So why the hell Yamaha did that instead of this? It's because of money. Clearly, it's now these days, even in motorsport, what I'm saying, it's not doing the best. It's not building the car, the engine that lasts longer, that performs better, to consume. You don't need a bike to last 30 years, only a few years. We get the new stuff, the new model. This 7 arrived, oh, I have it. Because Portales does this, because Yamaha is the greatest bike ever built, blah, 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 all the stuff, marketing stuff. And then the World Raid came out, same bike, bigger fuel tanks. I don't like it, but again, it's different stuff. I have it. So you have T7 number ones for sale, new model. I bet you if the next year new model arrives, people will have that new model, consume. You don't even know your bike, you already want to sell it because new model. Is mind-blowing. Rally racing, if I was going back in time, I'm shitting you not, I'm 100% honest, I would have tried, well, I will build and see how it goes, because again, it has improved it. This motorcycle, instead of this, £2,000 for the bike, and then spend what I've spent on this. So, full suspensions, you have to do it. Custom fuel tank, it will be under the seat, yes. Actually, it will be here in an even better position, because we're going to take all of that space. We will design obviously the whole the back of the bike. Fuel tank will be there, nothing on the front, very slim. It will have a much lower center of weight. It will not be top heavy. This motorcycle, as it is less top heavy than this one, which is already race ready, because of the engine structure and the engine position in the frame. This is much more nimble motorcycle than this is. This does wheelies easier than a T7 because of the longer wheelbase. So what are we talking about? It's probably got 30 brakes. Guess what? T7 standard makes about 72 brake horsepower. This one standard makes about 6970. Does it lost some? Maybe. Done the cams, synchronize them, adjust them nicely. Nah, it's roughly the same power. Now, there is a difference in the engine construction inside. That engine has 270-degree crank. That is very important because that crank solution, it gives you the sensation that you're riding a twin, a V-twin instead of a parallel. But then when you open the gas and your RPMs going up, it smooths, it pulls till 10,000 RPMs like a parallel instead of a twin. So it's a great combination. This is a 360 crank. So this one pulls and on the bottom and to the end just like a parallel. So the power is gradually growing up as you go with the RPMs, with the torque. There's very little torque on the middle. There's less torque in the middle RPMs than on this. On the top, roughly the same. We pull this with Africa 2000, roughly the same accelerations. Me and the passenger, him and the passenger, roughly the same weights. This is lighter, obviously, but performance, it was there. Africa wasn't going nowhere. Actually, this potentially could be a tiny bit quicker. Against T7, I don't know, we haven't tried, but I guess T7 will win because it has more grunt, more torque on low RPMs. Now this is the fun factor. You can remove this engine, you can put A50 engine, so bigger capacity, same construction, so same crank. Or the second generation of the A50 engines, which they put in the Peterhan's bike, which comes from the TRX 850. You can use it from the Yamaha TDM 850 with a 270 crank. And that produces 77 horsepower. Only 7-8 horsepower in addition on this, but the grunt in the middle is much bigger because of the crank. Same crank as on the new bikes. So you have different noise, same as the T7, and you have that torque developed in the mid-range, much quicker, much more punch, but more, you don't have to rev it to accelerate. And then if you want to, some people even put 900cc fuel injector, which I'm not fan of it because I like the simplicity in the cabs and all that stuff. So let's stay with 850, 270 crank, which I guess you can get up to, probably if you tune it rightly, maybe 80 brakes, maybe 3 brakes on top of standard is not much, because you put air filters, you put in empty exhaust, you tune the cabs a little bit, you get 3 horsepower, no problem. So 80 brakes instead of 74 once it's tuned. Okay, right. Is that a fair comparison? Well, it is. It is, because I will still spend less money on this than I spend on this. And the result probably will be slightly better. Now, I'm not saying this is about the motorcycle and this. But bloody hell has a potential. And it pisses me off that the engineers did not put so much effort in the T7 that they did on this. Again, riding the motorcycle, all on the paper, the engine is taller, the top heavy and all the stuff. KTM 790s and 90s, they're better motorcycles on the paper, but so many people switching from the KTMs to T7s, and understand why, because at the end, that is an awesome motorcycle. I love it to all my beats, I really love it. All this stuff, swing arms and angles and all that stuff, goes in a scrapyard the moment you ride the motorcycle, because the stuff works. But all I'm saying that it could work even better if they put more effort into it, instead of trying to adapt the engine in the frame and the whole geometry to an ADV motorcycle, adventure motorcycle, rally motorcycle, because I knew they wanted to go back in the competition. And it works, I'm not saying no, they've done an amazing job, with the length of the swing arm, they compensate a little bit of fuck up, or because they don't want to develop another engine, or whatever the reason was. It works, but it could work much better. I am disappointed with that. Therefore, I need another one of these, and I'm going to do exactly the same what I would do on this. Less money spent, because I'm not going to spend 6 grand on suspension, I'm going to do on this. We're going to build them, because now we're working with the T-Tech. We actually, he is designing and doing a lot of stuff for the T7 that, I think he's developing the kit so you can put 48mm forks on the T7, which is great. because so far only Boano was doing that, which are both the stuff, but we are tiny bit disappointed with the internals of the Boano forks for the T7. There is stuff inside there that it shouldn't be there, you know. But let's open them up and then see what's what exactly, and then we see that's a different topic. So, a comparison. I'm not saying this has nothing to do better. Back in the day, they had this thing where the foot pegs, they were full, and you sitting like this in a chair instead of proper way. If you see the T7 in comparison, it's different to say because of different seat, but the foot pegs should be roughly, you see where your seat is, this is your ass, about 4 or 5 inches forward, and it should be roughly where when your seat finishes here from. So it should be roughly here, by that much. 3 to 4 inches backwards, quite a lot, because when you're sitting it's fine, but when you're standing, can I show you? I think I can show you. I need to show you from the both bikes. It's a comparison, so I'm not cheating. Let's just show you the sitting and standing position. Let me just check if you can see both of the bikes. Yeah, you can see it clearly. Okay, let's jump on the T7 now. Again, competition bike, we don't have a fuel tank, but it doesn't matter in this instance because I'm gonna see where I would sit when the fuel tank was there. So this is my sitting position. You know, so the arms are slightly bent. Full control. If this was a standard bike, I would have been here. Not good. Not good at all. But then standing is completely different. From here, you go here. But you see where I stand? My legs are straight. My feet, my boots are where you should be on the pegs roughly. I can grab these. This is your sitting position. This is the standing position. You know, complete in balance. I don't have to touch the steering balance. It's here. It's very neutral. It's beautiful. I love it. It's lovely. It's great. And then you in full attack mode. You know, if you're next table, relaxed because you're going speed and there's nothing there. You can stand up. It's very relaxed. And if you're going on a rough terrain, you know, you lock your boots on the fuel tank here, transfer your weight back. You don't have to pull on the bars because you're getting very tired. You see, I don't have to. But you're there full control. Now let's see the difference on the old lady. Okay, she's not gonna fall off like she did before. Sitting position with the seat slightly higher against that if that was had a fuel tank. Again, because I raised it, I'm in better position, slightly better. Because on a T7 I was here. So that bear in mind. Standing position, everything changes. If I stand up, you see, I'm way too much forward. I don't have much control here. This should be here. I should be there. And I can't lock with my boots on this. However, if this pegs, let's simulate roughly here. It's actually difficult to simulate, but let's do it. So sitting here, just going down. Sitting here, let's see if I can do it just with my toes. That's already better, but obviously I don't have nothing to support my feet. But this is already better. It should be slightly there, it should be here. If it's here, I can lock my legs, my boots against this. And that will be just great if I was here. So from here to here, yeah, no, they have to be back, a lot back, about here, 3-4 inches backwards. It will change the bike completely. That's what I'm going to do next time. What else is there to talk about the bike? Fuel capacity, 25.5 liters because I made a fuel tank. Originally, 16 if you're lucky, because if you have a T7, you know that the last liter is a pain in the ass to put on. So let's count it 15. 26, 27, I think 26. Standard. So on the top, well, yes,
but you feel this part. This last part is just the last part. Mostly it's here. You feel 27 liters, you barely feel any difference. You feel a difference, but the handling on the bike doesn't get any worse. It's still great. You know, I can see for wheelies, and it's great. Fuel consumption obviously plays a big role, because if you have 26 liters against 16 liters but use twice the amount of fuel, you know, the mileage is the same. The mileage, the range. That thing with two, me and my missus, and some backpack and stuff like this, normally mixed. So motorway, riding like stupid, riding conservative, towns, motorways, really mixed. It returns nearly 50 miles per gallon with tuned carbs. Just nothing special, just tune the original stuff. This one, the beauty of this, we can check it. 48.6, but this was competition use, so this is pushed. I'm pretty sure if this was me and my missus, original stuff, you know, as loaded as this, it will do at least 60. So this consumes less fuel than this. Nevertheless, 26 liters of fuel is not bad. Is not bad. And again, the bike, although it may don't look like, in the standard form, is even more nimble than the standard T7. Believe it or not, it is. Again, we have to compare them with a fair bit. So roughly the same suspensions, so take care of those. Roughly the same brakes quality, so take care of the old ones so they're fresh. You don't have to make them better, just get them fresh. And they're very comparable. Daily use, travel, ADV stuff. That. I'm not shitting you. I know a lot of people are gonna be upset. I'm not shitting you. Few reasons. More comfortable. That shit is very comfortable. It's not as comfortable, but like the Honda Varadero 1000 we had, because that is a cushion. That is a sofa. This is in between, but it is still very comfortable. Much more comfortable than the rally seat on a T7. The rally seat on a T7 is known to be much more comfortable than the standard one. Standard one, we don't even go to comparison, because it's like comparing a sofa to a dirt bike. But again, a comfort seat, which is the rally one, more padding, soft, bigger, to this. This is more comfortable, both for me and a passenger, period. This bike is a little bit more nimble, because it's shorter wheelbase, because the weight is lower down, because of the engine position, and because of the engine construction, and because of the shorter swing arm. The shorter swing arm is good and bad depending on situation. Again, it's speculations. This could be better at speed. If this was short, it would be better in twisty sections, maybe not. I don't know. We're gonna test it. But that is more nimble. We're comparing standard one T7 to the standard one of this. Again, just refreshed. Fuel capacity 27 against 15 or maybe 16 if you really stay there in the last liter you put it on. So longer range, less range, no big deal. They have enough range anyway. Exhaust noise. Scorpion exhaust, second hand, big can. Unfortunately, Chinese exhaust can. It's not too bad though. It's not far away from the Accra I had before. Arguably
That sounds better because of that crank, 270. So the push is not equal. Sounds more like a V2, V-twin engine instead of like a parallel. But again, similar noise you can get if you put the 850 engine with a 270 crank, which, guess what, fits in a chassis with no modifications. Just electronics, because again, ECU is different. But it's very simple, people do it all over the world. So, you know, I love both bikes. I think on that one, the exhaust should have been rerouted, different place. It should be lower. The fuel pack should be on the top, because then it's lower, it's clear. Because those fuel packs on this bike, they're slightly bit different. Left is closer to the frame than the right. And this bothers me a little bit, because it's not symmetric, because they make space for the exhaust to go on. And then the bikes that used to go on in Dakar, they had the exhaust on the left side. It was under the pegs, and the pegs were narrower, a bit more back, and they were symmetrical. So the same thing goes on this. Add them, you know, for competition. If you want to use this for rallies or travel, ADV, whatever use you want to do it, I would do it, because it gets you more comfortable, especially on the standing position, to move them back and have them symmetrical, because then this leg is on this and this leg is slightly different. Your hips move, your knee moves, and you know, if you have to spend time on the bike for days, it does make a little bit of a difference. This 7 is not perfect, because although it's symmetrical, fairly symmetrical on the pegs, you got a clutch cover here which catches in your leg a little bit. So, but definitely that is a little bit better on the pegs position. That's for sure. But there's nothing that you could not modify on this to make it pretty bloody perfect motorcycle for ADV. You know, good fuel range, very reliable engines, reliability CP2 engine, awesome. They've been on the market for years, and they have no problems. You can use them and abuse them. Clutch is absolutely awesome, very durable, takes huge amount of abuse, you know, and it's great. On the other hand, 30 years, no warranty needed. Everything just works perfectly beautiful. Pretty much same horsepower. If you put the 850 on it, again, 80 brakes instead of 72, 74. So, I know this looks stupid and it doesn't make sense. This is an old looking bike, although I think it's sexy as hell. It's very good looking bike. When you jump on it, when you ride one of these, you'll be like, I cannot believe this is 30 years old. Because of the mainstream, because of the shops, because of these companies, they're pushing this almost a propaganda that you need the latest stuff, the newest stuff, which partially is true. You know, it's nice to jump on a bike which is brand new, you have the warranty, everything's nice and fresh, the dash displays everything, it connects to your phone through the Bluetooth. All the bullshit that is not useful, maybe handy but not very useful. I jump on that, I miss nothing out of the T7. I jump on that, I miss nothing out of the Africa Twin, nothing, absolutely nothing. The stuff that you have to write is all there. All the gizmos, the flashy dashes and all that stuff. Guess what? I prefer those analog instruments. I love them. The stuff was there for 30 years and it's still working perfectly, and I know it's going to work for another 30 years. This stuff, yeah, they'll probably do the same. Let's wait 30 years and see. I'm not saying it's worse, it's still great. I'm saying that there's nothing there that you're missing out. It's so yes, as you can see, I do love the motorcycle, you know, and there's a lot of stuff that you can improve. You can make them look better if you want to, you know. So yeah, daily use, ADV, lanes, travel, I prefer that. It's not like I don't like this motorcycle. I've spent tons of money on this. I spent more money than the motorcycle was worth when it was new. So, you know, I'm not going to have any of that. And I love it. It's great. But this is a comparison, not how good this bike is. It's how good that bike is against the new one. So, I hope I covered everything. Oh, quality of the stuff. I already say the frame. The painting of the frame, disappointing on T7, a lot of people already seen that. They started to rust after 2 years, 30 years, no rust. unless you find one is completely rusty, again 30 years, or depending where the bike was kept. If it was kept at the seaside, maybe. Wheels, I removed the front wheel and I have a T7 front wheel because the whole front end is from T7. If you compare it to the old one, the wheels themselves, believe it or not, they're better quality. They're thicker, they're stronger. The back wheel, I could adapt the T7 wheel. I left the 17 inch, which is not ideal. I prefer the 18 inch. And I could put the 18 inch rim on that hub. But change the spokes and all the stuff. I spoke with the SMP, SM Pro wheels, they could do it. But I was like, no, that wheel is 3 inch wide and is stronger than the T7 one. 30 years old. What the hell? Why? I know the money plays a big role. T7 is much cheaper, and I get it. You put the bigger wheels on it, I get it. I'm just doing the comparison. What else? I think that's it. That's all been said. You know. I don't know. Is this kind of 90s style, early 90s style motorcycle that is defending itself so good? So good, it doesn't want to give up, it's still great. If I blind you, put you on that bike, and you had no idea this is a 30-year-old bike, you'll be like, this feels amazing, this is very good, it brakes good, and it twists good, and it turns good, it's very stable, the engine is very nice, it just handles amazing. Yeah, I will buy it. How much is it? 10, 12 grand, like the new bikes. Yeah, it's completely worth it. Trust me, that will be the impression. No. It's only a couple of £1,000 because it's 90s bike, and you'll be shocked. It's like, no, I cannot believe this, because the rides much better than many, not all of them, but many modern motorcycles. So I think that's the end of this rant. I'm sorry it was too long, but I wanted to do it for a long time. I cannot believe how good this motorcycle is. I wanted one for a long time. Finally had it, and now I need another one to build something like this. And you know why? Because it's much simpler, and the result could actually be tiny better. You know, yes, there is work to do. There is an exhaust that we have to reroute to make the bottom of the bike narrower, because it could be much narrower. Remove that, you know, funny sun protection, because like any original bike doesn't really protect much. And do you want to see something funny? This is a competition bike, rising suspension, tires and all that stuff. Great, right? Now, it's not the actual height climbings from the sun to the floor, because they on the side stand, so it's not very but they're roughly in the same position. We're just gonna see the differences. $280mm. Almost 290. Just saying. Now, you can shit on my review, on my comparison as much as you want, but those are facts. And I'm not saying this is a worse motorcycle, absolutely not. Of course it's a better motorcycle, it's new, it's fresh, it's new technology, it's a great engine, it's a fuel injected, and it's very reliable, and it's just great. Everyone loves T7s. But for everyday use, if I want to go to Portugal, if I want to spend some money and build a bike to go to Portugal to do TED and stuff like this, and travel with missus, or go to work, I take that. I'm not shitting you.